content marketing, there's a lot of different aspects, social, however you're branding your content marketing. But today I'm going to talk about video. Just a little bit more about me. Dan kind of said it, jack of all trades. So at Jennings, a lot of times I'm involved in the creative direction. So the creative team will kind of pull me in, I kind of help them figure out if it's feasible with video and working with the budget we have to make it possible. So that's a big part of the role. Producing, so on the front end of any video, I'm back at the office helping coordinate, getting all the scheduling, getting all that stuff put together. On shoots, a lot of times I'm directing. I'm also running camera, so those are multiple roles I'll do on set, and then also working with lighting an event. And then back in the office, I'm in our edit bay, doing a lot of the editing, so truly kind of a one-man band in that aspect. If we have larger shoots, we facilitate the crew as needed, but for the most part, I'm able to kind of handle a lot of stuff in-house. Basically, what I'm going to talk about today is just how video adds to your marketing content. A lot of you guys know about marketing already and how the content goes well with your branding campaign, but we'll talk a little bit about video, and then what makes a great video. Dan touched on it in my intro with storytelling. Mike talked a lot about it, finding that great story, and that's what truly makes a great video. The process, we'll go through pre-production, production, and post-production. So quickly go through those phases so you guys know what to expect when you're working with a vendor. They should all have these processes in place. And then post-production, editing, what makes a lot of the great storytelling aspect comes out in the edit of the video. So having a vendor that's good at storytelling and not just operating the software. And then the last thing is launching your campaign. So you work really hard to make a great video. What are you going to do with the video when it's done? You're going to get it up on social channels. There's hosting channels. This is different sites that help you, embed the video into your website, and it's a platform there. I'll talk about that. And then analytics. So the whole reason you're doing a video is to get something back from it, get that return on investment. So analytics really help you see that, and I've got a special kind of hosting site that we use that has great analytics, so we'll go through that. I searched kind of a lot of definitions for content marketing, and I really like this one. It has a couple buzzwords in there that I really like, but I'm going to just read this through. Content marketing is a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience and ultimately to drive customer action. So specifically in video, strategic marketing, you guys are all familiar with this, but it's something you want to think about. You want to go into it with, especially with a video, have a plan, talk to your in-house resources or determine if you're going to get a vendor. This is kind of that step. And then value. Are we adding value to a campaign? Or does the video speak to a value that you're trying to initiate in your company or in your workforce? Is it relevant content? Is this something that is going on today? Is it a 2017 trend, something that your company is struggling with, or it's a need in the industry that people are looking for? Make sure it's relevant content. A clearly defined audience. Are you finding out that audience, doing your research? Make sure it's a targeted audience that you know is going to be needing this content. Lastly, in this definition is customer action. So we all want the video to do something and to make the content relevant. And your audience wants to make a choice, so provide them with something that makes them think. This is the most important part of the video. It's going to drive them and make them think and take action based on your video, and we'll get into that. So what makes your video, what makes a great video is story. And again, we all kind of touched on this. This is the most important thing. But healthcare is a revolving door of great stories. I mean, somebody's coming in a wheelchair, they've got a bad hip or a knee, and they're walking out under their own power. I mean, these are great stories. Every day, talk to your staff, and check out social media too. Your trending social patterns. Somebody, back in the day before social media, it was difficult to find a good story. If somebody had a great thing they wanted to say about your industry, then it was hard. But now you can check on your social media and see that somebody just tweeted how great their experience was at, you know, X company, or their experience with this industry. So find that out, and you can really make that happen. Pre-interview your subjects. So when you're thinking about somebody that has a great story to tell, you're going to want to sit with them, interview them, make sure that they're articulate on camera, that they can explain themselves well, and that they explain the story that you want them to tell. You know, basically these people are giving you a testimonial, but they're doing it through their personal experience. We just did a video recently with a client locally for Lawrence, and the subject, he had got a new hip and a knee, and he was worked in his workshop, and it lent itself to great visuals. So when you're kind of probing an interviewer for their story, you want to make sure that there's good visuals that really go with that. Humans are emotional creatures. We relate to each other, and there is no better way to do that than in a video. I mean, the way that we relate to each other is through an emotional, powerful story. And video is a tool and a medium to get that across. So by doing that, you're able to kind of subliminally tell your message at your hospital or through your healthcare facility. So that same kind of example, you know, he was able to tell the story by his job, because before his hip, he couldn't do his woodworking, he was into Model T cars, he liked to work on his cars. But after the procedure, then he could go back to that. His livelihood was no longer in jeopardy. So it just kind of communicated a great message. Make your message unique. You know, the way that a lot of these service lines are done the same, cardiac, bariatric, they're all kind of handled the same, but your facility is going to do it uniquely. So make sure that is communicated in your story. And then motivation. Motivate people towards your goal, and you kind of guide them in your story. So when you're pre-interviewing them, they may think, you know, their experience kind of went this way, but through an interview, you can guide them to tell the message that you want to get out of that. So that's something that you want to think about when you're finding the story. Content is king. I really like this phrase. I use it a lot when I'm talking to people that, you know, they're asking me, why are we worrying so much about the story? Does anybody know who coined that phrase? Bill Gates. Yeah, in 96. And he was actually thinking more about people that generated content for the internet. The internet was in its infancy, just kind of getting rolling, and he knew that people that generated content for the internet were going to kind of be the kings of that industry. And I use this term a lot in video because the content that is generated from video it lives forever. As Dan said, these videos that we're recording the sessions, they're going to live forever. And so you make one video, but you can repurpose it over and over, and you have that content. It's etched in stone forever. It's not going to go anywhere. It's something you can reuse, and it's not going to get out of date. Excuse me. Things people want to know. Make sure it's a strong, relevant. We talked about the relevancy in the description. Value-added content. Video is a powerful tool that delivers your message and your objective. Service line. So you can use it for different examples, like service line industry. You may have a new surgery center that's opening up. These are all things that warrant a great video. And own the space with multiple videos. If you have a new surgery center that's opening, you could make one video that is just going to showcase different parts of the surgery center. Like, we do this, we have the top-of-the-line technology. But what if you made 5 videos and you really focused on each aspect of the new surgery center? You know, this is going to make you kind of become an expert in the space. You have more content out there that's deliverable to specific target audiences, and this is something that's really going to be valuable in making a great video. The storytelling aspect is something that I really am passionate about because this comes through in the edit of the video. So when you're working with your vendor or your in-house production crew, you want to make sure that they tell a good story. When you're going after some vendors and you're interviewing them or figuring out if they're going to be the one you want to work with, you want to make sure they can tell a good story. They may throw all these cool terms at you like, oh, we shoot with the RED camera and we do all this high-end stuff. But if they don't know how to tell a story, it's pointless. The video is going to fall flat. And so you really want this company and you really want the story to come out in the end. Working with in-house vendors and editors, so we talked about that, and request and share content cuts. So a lot of times what we do is when we shoot a video and we're done with the video, we're editing it, we'll deliver a content cut to the client. And what a content cut is basically, it's just the interviews strung together with no footage on top of it. We call that B-roll that goes on top of the interviews. But there's nothing on top of it yet. And remember the Max Headroom video where his head would it kind of looks funky. But basically all we're doing is we're laying out the storyline. And so your client can see exactly what the story is going to be. And so without doing a lot of effects or graphics or any kind of footage on top, they really can break out the storyline. And that's a valuable thing. And then you can share that with your other people in your company, and everyone can really kind of buy in on the story, and then you can let them loose on kind of adding the bells and whistles to it all. The next part is making a great video is the hook. So within the first 15 seconds of a video, your viewer is going to decide if they want to stick around or if they're done, they don't want to watch anymore. So the attention grabber is something that is really important. You can do it a few different ways. There's music montages you've seen, and sometimes no music at all. Just start it off with the narration of your interview, making a shocking statement. Something you don't see every day that's really going to make that viewer like, oh man, what is this? I want to keep watching. So really get your hook on there. Keep it short. Videos, they don't have to be long to tell a good story. 2 to 3 minutes max. There's a lot of analytics that prove the drop-off rate after 2 minutes. You'll see a steady decline. So keep your videos short. And then again, the demographic should be targeted. So if you're trying to put your videos towards millennials, you might want to do a 1-minute video because they're on to the next thing very quickly. Gen X, they might be able to stick around and so on. So know your audience. Who is this video going to and their kind of attention span. Sometimes if you have to do a longer video to get the content out there, if it's ending up like it looks like it's going to be a 6, 7, 8-minute video, think about breaking it up, maybe into a series. So you could do 3 or 4 2-minute videos. And you could still get the message out there, but now you're generating more content and you have a slower release of this content. So it becomes kind of like a 4-part series. And YouTube and the search engines, they love that kind of stuff because it's adding content. You want your message to be promoted, and sometimes that can get lost in a video project. You start out saying, this is going to promote the bariatric program, and then by the end of the video, you have no idea what's going on. The video company took it in a different direction, and you don't have control of it. So through the process, keep your eye focused on the goal. To promote the video, consider sharing photos of the production on social media. Get people excited about the video. So if you're able to attend the video shoot, snap a couple behind-the-scene photos, throw it up socially, say, hey guys, new video coming out, look at the team working on it now, and just kind of grease the wheels, get people excited about it. And then have a plan to leverage. This is kind of the other thing when I think about promoting your video is having a plan to leverage the video content. You're not going to go into it blind. You guys know all about this, but it's something that you want to continue to have that plan and stay focused, know what you're going to do when the video's done. And include your video in an overall campaign and strategy. So, There's other elements that are going to surround a campaign. You may have print, you may have other digital ads that are going out, but video can kind of keep all that tied together, and it makes a cohesive campaign. So I have a video that I think is a good sample of a great video.
I am so excited, it's crazy.
My name is Kathleen. A little over a year ago, I didn't think I'd be able to do something like this. The fact that I'm here today and I'm actually going to be able to go up a mountain and zip line down it is mind-blowing to me. Prior to my weight loss surgery, I had a lot of aches and pains physically. My knees bothered me on a daily basis, my hips bothered me on a daily basis. I was suffering from plantar fasciitis, my back would bother me. Simple tasks, going to the mall to go shopping with my daughter, became a struggle, and I realized I needed to do something to change my life. Emerson Hospital Center for Weight Loss was recommended to me by my primary care physician. She had told me about the informational seminars that they have, so I called and booked myself a place. The staff was amazingly welcoming. They made me feel incredibly comfortable. It was quickly not an intimidating environment at all to me. The doctors were fantastic as far as answering all of the questions that I had during the seminar, and I asked a lot of questions during the seminar and decided that that was definitely the place for me to change my life. Some of the changes since the weight loss surgery is definitely more energy and more motivation to go out and do physical activities. I love to hike. I have started to kayak this year. I'm looking for always somewhere new to explore. One of the other changes has been the confidence level that I have has definitely been increased, and my belief in being able to achieve my goals. Truly, one thing that I say every single time I go in there is, thank you, because I could not have done this without them. They have really been an absolutely amazing support. They really give you everything that you need, every tool that you need in order to be successful. That was amazing, the best experience of my life.
So let's break this down a little bit with kind of some of the key points I mentioned regarding this video. So as far as the story, I feel like this was a very well-crafted video in advance. The client pre-interviewed the subject, we interviewed the subject over the phone, listened to her, agreed this is a good person to do a video about. She mentioned in her interview that one of her bucket list things was to go zip lining. So we just latched onto that and we were like, that's it, that's what we want to do. Get them out of the hospital, get them away, get them where they want, and obviously she was having a great time, and it just kind of exudes in her interview. When we set the interview, somewhere near the zip line in the forest, and it's just, you could feel that energy coming through. My content is king. It's exciting, relevant footage that adds value. So by watching this, you're excited, and the relevant footage kind of puts her in an environment that you wouldn't expect normally. You'd expect to hear the CEO or a doctor telling you about the bariatric program, but it's all her. It's all her, and you're learning from her story. And the storytelling, I think the editor did a great job here, not to toot my own horn, but you're getting to know her and her situation. So you learn about her. Again, there's not a doctor telling you how great the bariatric program is. It's all about a live personal story from her, and you really feel that. The hook. So I think the very first frame of the video, she's hanging from a zip line. So that's not your normal start of a video, right? You're not seeing her sitting, or there's not like an establishing of the hospital. It kind of piques your interest, like why is she hanging from a zip line and what is she doing? And it's short, it's 2:19, it goes by pretty quick, and the promotion is through personal experience. This is like it's a hidden testimonial, but she's not there saying, I love the bariatric program, I lost a lot of weight, and you should go too. It's free and it's fun, and through her personal experience, you can relate to that, And if you have a similar situation, you might go to Emerson and check out their bariatric program. So that's kind of taken us through what it makes to do a great video. Yes? Mm-hmm. Exactly. Ties it all in nicely. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. The editing software is Premiere Pro. Yep. We have the whole Premiere suite at Jennings, and so After Effects, Premiere, Photoshop. So let's get into a little bit of the video process. The first thing is kind of, this is the step to find your vendor. So, you know, you need to find a vendor based on the scope and the size of the project. If it's something small, you can do it in-house perhaps if you've got a video team. If it's something that needs to be done on a larger scale or multiple videos, it's going to, you know, you need a quick turnaround. An outside vendor might be the way to go. And make sure they're well versed in hospital marketing. Someone that knows your goals for the video and the overall campaign. So you want to involve them early. If it's like a whole campaign where you've got print and there's branding that they need to keep intact, let them know that right out of the gate. They should be able to describe their process to you. So they should be able to tell you they have pre-production that includes X, Y, and Z. I'll go through some of that. But you know, how they handle their production, what elements, how they shoot things, and then the post-production, they should tell you that, yes, we do a timeline, we'll give you a storyboard and a script, and kind of take you through that. You want to feel confident that they're going to give you every step along the way. And then with another thing with your vendor here is you want to make sure that they're HIPAA protected, they're using the right HIPAA policies, because when that crew is on set and they're acquiring patient health information, you want to make sure that that is protected. And I've got a whole slide on HIPAA. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on that later. Next is scripting and questions. So there should always be a script. And if it's not a script, it's an outline that kind of just shows what the video is going to be doing and who's inserted here and then what kind of footage is going to be here. This is a split page script, and this is audio, and this is video. So even if it's a narrative, even if it's like an interview, and you don't know what the person's going to say, based on the questions that are formulated, you can kind of dictate their answer and kind of guess, get it close, and then you can kind of fill in what you think they're going to say. At least you have a direction of what they're going to say based on the question, and then you can match it with video. So if they're talking about zip lining and what mountain they really like to go hiking on, then that's what you put in the video section. So they should have this kind of stuff. And then this is just a straight script. So sometimes there's voiceover. You can include that and different aspects of that. The thing with questions, too, is formulating questions is an important phase. So this is going to kind of dictate the story that they tell you based on the questions that you ask and the person that asks those questions. So you can have a great list of questions, but if you plop down somebody that doesn't know anything about hospital or healthcare, they're not going to be able to relate to that subject and know what they're talking about to pull kind of that best information. So both of those aspects are really important. And then storyboarding. It's a little blown out here, but this is sketch, like hand sketch storyboarding. So if you can think of it, they can draw it. A storyboard artist can draw it. You know, say I'm thinking of a helicopter shot where this guy's going to be jumping out of here. We can draw all that so that the client can visually see what the video is going to look like when it's done. Another way to do a storyboard is just pull images off of online. So you can just pull stock images off that are, you know, all FPO or something like that, just to give your client kind of a reference of how the video is going to lay out. A lot of times it makes it a lot easier to get a budget pushed through, or if you're presenting this budget to a higher up CEO or an executive, you can be like, here's the video, this is what it's going to look like, this is what it's going to sound like, and it's a lot clearer for everybody. And then planning. So a big part of the pre-production process, what I do, is planning the shoot. So this will include shot lists, sorry, I get my notes here. Timelines, sometimes you'll work with casting, so actors, and then the real people that you're going to be interviewing and coordinating that. Each day of production should be carefully thought out for the best use of the time and the resources. So this is kind of how we do our timelines. I'll go week by week, and then not started, in progress, and finished. So this is updated weekly. We send to our clients. Everybody's in tune. Communication lines are open. So this is a great process. And then setting it up, this is every hour of the day is outlined when we're on a shoot. Because if you're just like, oh yeah, in the morning we'll go to the hospital and shoot some footage of this, and then in the afternoon we'll do a couple interviews in the conference room. We'll see you there on Tuesday. It's like 1,000 things could go wrong, and the video, you might end up getting here and you didn't look at this location, and it turns out that it's not a good location to shoot because it's too busy, too much things going on. And then the CEO thought it was at 2, you thought it was at, you're not set up for 2 o'clock, your lighting's not ready. So just have yourself scheduled out. Every hour should be set out, and you can't see it here, but this really goes into detail too about what's happening in each frame as far as interview CEO, 9:15 makeup, 9:30 CEO interview, roll cameras. So it's very, the client can see exactly what's happening, and it helps you, it helps your vendor, it helps the video production company stay on point. So I talked about HIPAA, and this is something that is very important because that you may not think about, but you want to make sure your vendor is using proper HIPAA policies in their workforce, because you would think, why does a video production company need to be HIPAA, using HIPAA policies? But when you're on a video shoot and you're in a hospital facility, there's patient health information everywhere. They're on computer monitors, they're on whiteboards, they're on charts that nurses are looking at. I mean, you got to really be careful, and the way that we protect ourselves from this is definitely have a HIPAA release. So there's verbiage that HIPAA stipulates that is in a written release, and then you have that patient or doctor. Most of the people that work there are covered under their normal, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. So you kind of have that ironclad release that you're walking around with, and if you're going to shoot a patient, you have them sign it. That gets you 90% coverage. Have a business associate agreement with that vendor stating that they're going to be on your property doing this kinds of stuff. Risk analysis, that vendor should be conducting a risk analysis of their own company to know which areas are high risk. So if they're a production company and they have hard drives in unlocked rooms, that's a high risk situation that they need to protect. And then external IP scans, I'm not going to get too technical here, but this is basically you have your IP addresses scanned so that people can't come in from the outside, get into that information. These are just ways to protect you. And backup and security protocols. I mean, we have backup amongst backups for all of our footage and media that we use on a daily basis. We have it archived off-site and on-site in locked rooms. And there's, all the way up to a sign-in book when maintenance people come in and need to fix the air conditioning. They have to sign in. What are you working on? What are you doing? So it gets pretty detailed. There's a lot of stuff involved, and it's a conversation you should have with your vendor just to make sure they're protecting that patient health information. This kind of falls under pre-production, but I put it under production because a lot of times we're traveling to do our shoots, our filming. So the location scout happens like a day before we're actually filming. We've already gotten pictures from the client. I always request pictures from the client. But the day before, we'll go look at it, make sure that it's proper. And the thing I want to tell you about location scouts is a lot of times you have to be the one to do this. You have to go into the conference room, find out if it's available from 9 to 1, and is it okay? And vendors might ask you weird questions like, stand in the room and listen. Because if you don't say anything and you just listen, you hear noises that you wouldn't normally hear. And that's what we do when we conduct an interview. You guys, there's 2 people talking, but there's all kinds of sounds. We can hear a clock ticking on the wall, or an air conditioning unit that turns off and on. I mean, these are things you want to kind of be aware of when you're kind of surveilling a room. And so location scouts are really important. Equipment. So a lot of times you're vetting your vendor, the cameras are not as important as storytelling. So try not to get swayed with like technical terms of cameras that people are using and things like that. For me, it all comes down to story. I mean, you've got a camera in your pocket and you've got an editing machine in your pocket. So you can really use any piece of equipment. It's just a matter of, is the story there and the content there? I put a drone in here because drones are super popular now. Everyone either has a drone or tries to fly a drone. The thing with drones I want to mention is if your vendor is bringing a drone on your property, make sure that they're licensed. The FAA, as of August 29th of 2016, requires any commercial pilot to be licensed by the FAA. So if they're saying they're going to come and fly a drone, they should be able to pull out their wallet and show you their pilot's license that's certified from the FAA. And the other thing is insurance. There is special aerial insurance. So general liability isn't going to cover an unmanned aircraft flying over your hospital and crashing into the parking lot and hurting someone or something. So aerial insurance is an important thing that they need to have if they're bringing a drone on your site. And I have a video. One thing we do is we always kind of do a two-camera approach when we do our shoots. And so basically we will do an interview with two cameras, and it provides kind of more of a dynamic shot, and it helps the editor out if they ever need to cut away from a person. So this video shows a good example of a two-camera approach, and there's some drone footage in here as well, and I'm going to talk over this video just a little bit.
Being retired, I like fishing every day, but it takes a toll on my shoulder. I'm glad I can get physical therapy
So
here at Vidant.
two cameras
Having the
can
clinic
also
here
be
makes
done-
living in Belhaven that much better.
You never know what can happen.
Two
when
cameras
kids
can
are
also
playing.
be good
I'm
for
so
B-roll
thankful
too.
the
So
clinic
this is
only
one
a few
camera,
minutes away.
and that's a second camera. A lot of times with
Throughout
two
my
cameras, I'll
pregnancy,
shoot
have an
wide
account
and
on being
close.
great prenatal
So we've got kind of our wide shot that's moving, and then you'll see. So it's not just for interviews. It can really help you. If you only
Our
have one day to
business
shoot,
focuses
you got to
on healthy
maximize your
living
footage.
between our yoga studio and the choices we make preparing our breakfast. And so it's comforting to know that the Vidant
So that's your
Multi-Specialty
main
Clinic
angle.
is here in our neighborhood that not only
And then your
serves
second
the medical
angle. So it
needs
provides
of
some nice
our
dynamics
residents,
to
but
an
also
interview.
our guests who we've had occasion to send there, boaters who are in our community on a regular basis, as well as people who are just passing through. They have the same benefits as the people who live here.
For 24 years, I have practiced medicine. For 22 of those years, I have practiced at Belhaven. This has been a great experience. It has been a labor of love. It is a labor of passion. There's nothing better than seeing a sick child that you have helped get better than coming back in wanting to see you when they get sick again because you've helped them the first time. That to me is just
For me, too, the two angles, you're communicating a message where you're on a wide shot, and then you punch in on that close-up
We
to
feel the clinic
reinforce
is a
point that
positive
he's
for the
saying.
area. It's got the bells and whistles we didn't have before. The clinic locating in Belhaven supports the Chamber's mission because it is here. People, when they move here, they want to know that if they have an emergency, there's a facility here that can take care of them. The Chamber's in the business of serving the community and making Belhaven the best place to live and to work. That's why we're so supportive of the new clinic. It gives Belhaven the care it needs to keep our community vibrant.
My wife and I moved here with our 3 children 27 years ago. Moving into this modern facility is just like moving uptown. This is wonderful.
I think in
I'm very
essence of
happy
time,
to
I'm
be
gonna
with my
move
colleagues
on,
under
but you
one
guys
roof.
get kind of an
I'm very
understanding
thankful
of
that we
the
have
two-camera
this
approach,
facility here
some drone footage.
that's connected
It really
with
helps
Vidant Beaufort Hospital.
with the dynamics of a shoot, having the drone in there. They're great. I love flying the drone. It's like so much fun. And now that we're insured and I'm licensed, I don't have to worry as much. But it adds a great dynamic with the 2 cameras and a drone, so you can kind of see how it all comes together. The next thing I like to talk about is getting the bang for your buck. So we'll do a lot of shoots where there are multiple days in a row, and we've gotten it down to a pretty good science now where if we're doing a patient profile, we can probably shoot 2 patients in a day instead of taking a whole day to spend with a patient. I mean, we're only making 2-minute videos here, so 4 hours with 1 patient, we'll drive across town and shoot another 4 hours with a second patient. We can pretty much get that done. And so now you've got 2 patient profiles from 1 day of shooting. And another thing to think about is if you are interviewing your CEO or someone that's really hard to wrangle down for an hour interview, ask them multiple things. So think about multiple videos, because a 45-minute interview could lend itself to 3 different topics. You know, you just need them for a little bit. As you can see, these people are on camera and there's multiple people talking, so you really need like 30-second sound bites from each person. So think about being able to get more videos out of one shoot. Interview styles. So I touched on how important it is that an interviewer knows his stuff when he's interviewing your subject, because this is really an important part of the shoot, because you've worked so hard to find this person, to make sure they're going to be good on camera, but now it comes down to the person that's actually going to ask them those questions and pull the story out of them that's going to construct your whole video. So don't think lightly about who sits in that chair to ask them these questions. They need to know the campaign, they need to know what the story is. You know, if you hire a vendor and you've been working with project manager Joe and he's coordinating all this, you haven't talked to who's editing the video, you haven't talked to who's going to sit in this chair, they may show up on the day of the shoot and be like, okay, look at the questions for the first time, and then they're just like, good answer. And then they just go to the next question, and it's a very heartless kind of, it's not a conversation. Really what you want with these 2 people is a conversation. You want a question to perhaps lead to a different question that wasn't on the original list of questions, so it should feel like a nice, genuine conversation. And then post-production, nonlinear editing, that's me in my edit bay there. And yes, we use Adobe Premiere CC for all of the editing, and then After Effects is our graphic animation program. And then, of course, all of our creative team uses it for Illustrator and InDesign, Photoshop. But these are things that your vendors should do. They should do color correction, sound design, graphics. These are all things that happen in post-production. So it shouldn't just be like they give you your video and they're done, see you later. There should be steps involved. There should be approval processes, because you want to be able to, you know, I talked about that content cut. So that's kind of the first pass. Once you have the story locked in, then that's kind of like fun time. You get to add all this nice pretty footage in that you shot, then that's another pass. They look at that and they say, okay, I like the way this shot ties into this shot, and I like the way the CEO looks walking down the hallway. And then you go into color correcting. So that's a lot of fun. You can play with color correction. Sound design is a big thing. Picking the music. Is it going to accentuate the tone of the story? It's got to really kind of, and then there's, I mean, you probably didn't hear it on the first video I played with Kathleen, the zip lining. The birds, when she's walking down through the forest, there was no birds there. So that's all added in. That's all Foleyed in, just like, you know, they do in the movies. So that's definitely an aspect of it. And then graphics. I mean, a lot of times graphics aren't thought of until the video's done, and they're like, oh, we should tell people where to go when the video's over. But a lot of times you can incorporate graphics throughout the whole video, or it can be chapter markers, or it can accentuate what people are saying. So graphics are just a fun part, and you can add it on. And then compression, something to let your vendor know right out of the gate is, where's the video going to show? Is this a video for broadcast? If so, what are the guidelines? Is it, you know, is it 1080? Is it 720? What are all kind of the techie terms that they need to know to make the video? Is it just going on Facebook? What's the best compression for that? So they should be able to kind of tell you that, make sure they're experienced with all that stuff. All right, how am I doing here? 10 minutes. Okay, great. So launching your campaign now, this is, you've gone through all the process, you've worked really hard, now you have a video, it's like your baby, right? You've finished it, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to get it out there? So Facebook is a great way to kind of launch the campaign. You've hopefully been Snapchatting and Instagram with pictures and getting the people excited that the video is coming out. Now you can go back, maybe even link to those so people get pinged again on your Facebook, and basically you're sharing that socially on all these channels. Then it goes on your website, YouTube, press releases, do a press release, do a newsletter, blog about it. LinkedIn now accepts video, and of course Twitter you can put video on there as well. So all these social channels are really helpful to get your video out there. Of course, if you're doing it for broadcast, you've got your media buys and that sort of thing. That's kind of a different avenue, but that's definitely an aspect of it too. So this is how you really want to launch your campaign and get it out there. So hosting the video, this is something where you're embedding the video onto your website. It provides an embed link so when you're putting the video on your website, you don't want to necessarily have a link from YouTube, because you've all seen at the bottom right corner it says YouTube, and you are branded with YouTube on your website. So I've highlighted Wistia here. This is what we use for our hosting service, and they're fantastic. If you don't know about them, check them out. They're super user-friendly. I mean, really, anybody can do it. Get started. I think they have like 5 videos for free that you can start up. It's super, super great. And this is kind of a picture from it, but you can see here like this gray bar with the gray play, that's fully color customizable. So if you're using this to host on your website, you can make that any color you want to match your website. And they have all kinds of social buttons I didn't put on here, but all the Facebook, Twitter, all the social stuff can go on here. You can even put your logo down in here. It has all your standard, make full size, volume. They have a ton of features. I don't have time to go into them all, but some of the great ones for marketing are email. They call it email turnstile, and basically before your video even starts, it'll kind of gray out and it says, add your video. You can also skip this part, but sometimes you might get people to add their email, and this is a great way to get new people and see who's watching your video, and then you can get new clientele perhaps this way. That's just one of the things. They have a call to action at the end. So if your video is on your website, but you may want to direct them to another page, see like, hey, if you watched this video, click here to see more, and maybe it takes them to another page on your website. The goal of these videos is to retain people's attention, keep their eyes on where you want them to keep, you're directing them where you want to go. So there's a lot of great features there. I listed a few other ones here. They don't, in my opinion, they don't have quite as many customizable features as Wistia, but they're good too. So this is the analytics I mentioned earlier. This is a page from Wistia's analytics. There's some great stuff here. This is called a heat map, and basically, I'm sorry this is a little overexposed, you can't quite see it, but I'll explain. This is basically a heat map, and what you're looking at is the yellow marker is how much of the video they've watched. So you can see these people watched maybe 50%, these people watched. So I was talking about that, the dip after so many minutes. I mean, this is the pattern on every video we look at for analytics. People are really excited at the beginning, and then they're losing their interest. So that's why analytics are super important, because you can use this to figure out making more videos. So you can be like, oh, so many people dipped out at the halfway mark. How come I wasn't keeping the first, minute of my 2-minute video exciting enough to get them to keep watching? There's skipped aspects, so you can see where they watched a little bit, then they jumped over, because people do that. They'll watch a video and then they'll be like, oh, let's see if this is kind of boring, let's see if it gets any better further down. So you can see that they skipped it. the parts that they rewatched get highlighted in different colors, so how many times they rewatched it. So they watched it once, they watched it again, they watched this certain section like 4 times. Maybe that was where they were in the video, or it was something that they really wanted to focus on. And the nice thing is, you can't see it at all here, but these are actually locations and how they're viewing it. So this will say like Northampton, Massachusetts on Google Chrome, or they're on their cell phone. So it provides you a lot of data that you can take back and see like, hey, everybody's watching our videos on a phone. Maybe we should do this campaign. It's like they're not really getting the full campaign with the print and the digital ads because they're just watching it on their phone. And how do you keep the direction where you want it? And then it has like how many videos they've watched on your, so you have kind of a Wistia channel, and you have projects in that channel, and all your different videos can be in there. So it'll show you if this person is kind of a regular on your Wistia channel, they've watched 12 of your videos. And then up here is your kind of normal, you might be used to seeing this on YouTube, engagement, how many, if they watch all the videos, so 88% of people are watching the entire video. Your plays, how many plays, and then this one is the, the play rate. Yeah, so if it popped up in their browser or they went to your website and they hit play, that's what this is going to tell you. So that's a great stat that I really like because you want to know if people are watching the video, whether they watched the whole thing or just clicked on it and then bailed. It's a valuable tool that 88% of people that this video got in front of them, they watched it. So I'm going to wrap up with, I think I got 2 videos here. Another great video we did with Emerson, and actually I'll set this up a little bit. This is closed captioned, but it wasn't for the Facebook reason. This subject is actually deaf, and so it presented a little bit of a challenge where we had a translator on site during the interview. But because it is subtitled, I thought it was a great video to show you to just see how it looks. It doesn't really take away from anything on the video.
Hi, my name is Mikey Kranak, and I've lost 70 pounds since my surgery at Emerson Hospital. Growing up, I had always struggled with weight. My family, everyone in my family, generationally, they're all pretty big people. So prior to the surgery, I had a lot of issues. Yeah, I was pre-diabetic. My blood pressure was very high. My top recorded weight was 378.8 pounds. What caused me to decide to have the surgery was I had gone to Paris for my 50th birthday with my husband, and one afternoon, a guy came right up to me, looked me in the face, and called me a fat pig. And me and my husband looked at each other, we were upset, he was really upset. And I said, the first thing that came to my mind was the surgery. I made that decision, I joined the program. What was great about Emerson Hospital and their program, it was a team approach. Everybody was warm, they made me feel very welcome. If I needed the interpreter, Emerson really, really respected that need. That action said to me that you care about me, that the hospital and the program cares about me, and that made a big impact.
Before, I think he felt very frustrated because he was trying so hard and putting so much effort into trying to lose weight. And he was doing a really good job, but it still wasn't having the effect that he wanted to have. He didn't feel in control of that. After the surgery, my first day back to class, I'll always remember that day. That was the day I realized that I could move, I could jump. I jumped. And Erica was looking at me like, who's that? He came into class and he was just so happy. And right after class ended, I just said, Mikey, you're moving in a way that I've never seen you move before. This is amazing. There was less of that inner sadness or frustration and more of, this is the real me coming out. I think the most important thing is you have to decide what you want for yourself. That's the most important thing. You have to look at what your heart really wants, what your heart really needs. Listen to your heart. And
Emerson's weight loss program, their understanding of not even me as a deaf person, just me as an individual. I would recommend to anyone who wants the weight loss surgery to go to Emerson.
So, you know, working with a deaf person, it presented a lot of challenges from a video side of things, but I was 100% ready to tackle that because the story was so awesome. So, I mean, that's what we do as filmmakers, and that's what you guys want to communicate to your client or to, you know, who you're working with, is the story and the content is really the most important. I've got one last video, just because we just finished this. It's our drone portfolio. So that is the end, guys. That's pretty much what I have. Thank you very much. Any questions?